Will Levis will be the Tennessee Titans MVP this season. I'll explain why on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. On today's show, I'm going to be doing some Tennessee Titans award predictions. Will Levis will be the offensive MVP. Harold Landry will be the defensive X factor. And I have T'Vondre Sweat winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. Before we get into all of it, I do want to thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. If you aren't an everydayer, well, you need to be one. I do want to give a shout out to my everydayers who tuned in yesterday and obviously today. I do have an ear infection, got a little bit of a sore throat. I'm battling through. It's week 1 of the NFL season. There's no way I'm leaving you guys without the number 1 Tennessee Titans podcast in the world. So strap in, folks. We got some Tennessee Titans awards to discuss. And obviously, we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball. Who will be the Tennessee Titans MVP? I'm excited to see what you guys have to say about some of these categories down below. But obviously, for me out of the gate, it has to be Will Levis. Will Levis must be the Tennessee Titans MVP, not only on offense, but for the entire team. The reality of the Titans situation is we've seen them make all these moves, change coaches. The organization has moved forward this offseason in an incredible way. I mean, this is going to be a dramatically impactful offseason for the Titans when we look back 5-10 years from now. We're going to think about this. But for this season, Will Levis has to take that step forward. If Will Levis doesn't take that step forward, if Will Levis isn't the Titans' most valuable player, if he isn't what the star quarterback on the team should be, then the Titans are going to go very far. And they're going to be closer to their floor than they are their ceiling. And speaking of floor and ceiling, on tomorrow's show, I'm going to talk about how the Titans get to their ceiling, how the Titans get to their floor, and where I ultimately think they'll land and why. So make sure that you tune in for that. But Will Levis not only is going to be the Titans MVP, he must be the Tennessee Titans MVP. I have a special category here, the offensive playmaker of the year. And for me, it's more than most valuable. It's really, I'm thinking about it, it's who's going to put up the most yards, who's going to put up the most big plays for the Titans. And for me, it has to be Calvin Ridley. I have said that Calvin Ridley was my favorite offseason acquisition for the Titans. And I think that it's going to be proven out on the field. They gave Calvin Ridley $90 million because not only do they believe that he's a good player, but they believe he is a perfect fit for the Titans, which I actually believe as well. The Titans needed a wide receiver with speed that can create separation. And now that Calvin Ridley is in his proper position on offense compared to being misused by Jacksonville last year, I think Calvin Ridley is about to go nuts. I think he's going to lead the team in yards. He might lead the team in touchdowns. I think, they could spread it out in the red zone, but I think Ridley is going to be the Titans' big, explosive playmaker. So he is the offensive playmaker of the year, in my opinion. Offensive breakout player. So who's going to break out on offense for the Titans this season? I know offensive line is considered boring, but I love offensive line play, and I'm going with Peter Skoronski. You're already seeing it in these preseason games. Him next to J.C. Latham, they are moving bodies, folks. And I think that Peter Skoronski, not dealing with the emergency offseason surgery, being with Bill Callahan, the best offensive line coach in the league, being in a better offense that just attracts more attention, people are going to be looking at Peter Skoronski. I mean, I've already heard like Brian Baldinger say that Skoronski is one of the best guards in the NFL. Like Jeffery Simmons is saying he's going to be elite, and he's been great in camp. I think that Peter Skoronski makes the jump from, hey, he's a rookie, he looks like a good player, to, oh, he's one of the top 5 guards in the entire NFL, Pro Bowl level player. So Peter Skoronski is my offensive breakout player of the year. My offensive X factor, though, is a little bit different. So for me, X factor is if this guy plays poorly, it's going to be a disaster. If he plays well, then the Titans are going to be in a great spot. And I think that X factor on offense is J.C. Latham. At the end of the day, the Titans' left tackle position has been the worst in the NFL for the last 2 years. So if Latham comes in and he's bad, really bad, and he's just, which he's a rookie offensive lineman, all right? So rookie offensive linemen are going to struggle. They're going to get better. It's not like what J.C. Latham does in year 1 is who J.C. Latham is. But if he does struggle mightily and isn't a vast enough improvement over what the Titans have been dealing with, it's going to sink the entire ship. It's going to be too big of a hole to plug in the boat. Okay. So if Latham is really good, though, the Titans offensive line has the chance to be a top 10 offensive line in the NFL. And that would obviously change the calculation for the Titans in a major way. So J.C. Latham to me is the X factor. I mean, obviously Levis is the biggest X factor in terms of good or bad, but he's going to be the MVP of the offense. I think J.C. Latham is the guy that you really got to look at as he has a big sway on what this team and what the offense can be. Finally, who's going to be the offensive disappointment? All right. And I have 2 names here. The easy one, the obvious one, in my opinion, is Treylon Burks. Look, there were some people who got back on the hype train in the offseason. I think that was a mistake. I just don't think that Burks has the talent that we think that he does. And I think even in a better offense, in a better system, him being in better shape, best shape of his life, all of that, I just don't think Treylon Burks is a difference-making player. I think that Treylon Burks at his peak is like a Corey Davis, number 2 wide receiver on your team. He could be your big, physical, downfield shot guy, vertical clear routes to clear out space with his size and physicality. But I don't think that he's a good enough route runner, and I don't think that he's just a natural playmaker in the way that we hoped he would be out of college. So I think Treylon Burks, even if he has a better season, it's still going to be a disappointment based on the expectation of being a first-round pick. Now, I do want to throw a secondary name in here quickly, and it's Josh Whyle. Whyle has a tendency to get hurt. We've seen already got banged up in the preseason during joint practices. A lot of people, including me, have been hyping him up as tight end 1 this year, although I did have the Titans tight end group ranked as one of the worst position groups on the team. I think the reality is we look up after the season and say, hey, Josh Whyle is a good role player, but he's not a starting tight end in the NFL. He's not a tight end 1. You know what I mean? So I think that's something. Burks is the easy one. It's low-hanging fruit. Anybody could tell you that. But if I went a little deeper in the bag, I think that Josh Whyle has the chance to disappoint some people. He could still be fine and be a good role player in the system, but I don't know if he's a starting tight end number 1. It might still be something where the Titans are hoping to maybe David Martin Robinson. Okay, now I'm getting real crazy. But with that, let's talk about defense, where I think that Harold Landry is the most important X factor. And then at the end of the show, I'm going to tell you why I think T'Vondre Sweat wins Defensive Rookie of the Year and give some other general NFL predictions as well. So a lot to discuss on today's edition of Locked On Titans. Before we continue, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It is America's number 1 sportsbook, after all. Well, they got something a little different for you now. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. I'm so excited to sit down on Sunday with 2 TVs, a bunch of games on the screen, watch the Tennessee Titans. It's going to be a great time. And again, you go to FanDuel, bet $5, 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket. You can get on the action too. Also, while you're there, Titans plus 4.5 against the Bears week 1. I'm just saying, make sure that you visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, doing some Tennessee Titans team awards predictions. I did offensive MVP, playmaker of the year, breakout player, X factor, disappointment. Now we're going to hit the defensive side of the ball. Again, let me know your predictions to match mine down below in the comments on YouTube, or hit me up on Twitter at TicTacTitans. Before we go into the defense, though, do want to let you guys know that the new Locked On NFL show is here, and it's hosted by your boy, okay? There are 2 shows per day now for Locked On NFL. First, the madman, Tyler Rowland, that's me, kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. I'm going to be lighting up with the hottest NFL takes, going over the biggest news. And then in the afternoon, stop by the barbershop and chop it up with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. You're going to get Locked On experts with different clips. You're going to get great insight. Look, guys, it's my 5-year anniversary here at Locked On. I got a big opportunity to host the new Locked On NFL AM show. I would really appreciate your guys' support if you went and checked that out. Again, make me, the madman, Tyler Rowland, and the barber, Tony Wiggins, your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Hilarious that I started a new job hosting Locked On NFL, and I got an ear infection and lost my voice. It's just absolutely hilarious if you want a window into how my life works. But with that being said, the show must go on, as they say. So, on defense, the MVP on the defensive side of the ball. This is another situation. It must be Jeffery Simmons. I'm expecting Jeffery Simmons to finally break that double-digit sack barrier. It's funny, Jeffery Simmons said it himself that he thinks he should have double-digit sacks. That is, he talks about like being the best interior defensive lineman in the league, and he mentions a guy like Chris Jones, who consistently gets double-digit sacks. Look, a lot of really good interior defensive linemen can play against the run, can take double teams, can shed blocks, can make plays in the backfield. But the most elite interior defensive linemen, again, stats aren't everything. The stats aren't everything. You got to look deeper than the stats. But the reality is production, and the NFL is a production business. And the best players in the NFL not only do it on the film, but they fill up the box score as well, okay? Stats aren't everything, but there's something. All right, production is production. So I think Jeffery Simmons finally goes over that double-digit sack mark this year, gets over 10 sacks, which has been elusive for him with injuries at the end of the season and playing hurt and different things. I think he does it this year. And the reality is the defense revolves around Jeffery Simmons. If Simmons is all-pro level amazing, it's going to set everybody else up for success because it's going to affect defenses, and they're going to have to game plan for him. So I don't think that I'm breaking any news here. Jeffery Simmons will be the MVP on defense for the Titans. As for the defensive playmaker, it's a guy that I've been higher on than some other Titans fans out there. I've defended this man at every turn, and it's Amani Hooker. Look, last year, Geno Stone in the Baltimore Ravens defense had 7 interceptions. Where'd Geno Stone play in college? Iowa. Amani Hooker, at his best, is a ball hawk. I call him a ball hawkeye because he came from Iowa as well, which I think I find funnier than everybody else. But hey, you got to laugh at your own jokes in life or you'll be pretty bored. Amani Hooker is going to get a ton of interceptions this year. I think he's going to create a ton of turnovers. Remember the first play of the season last year when Amani Hooker forced the fumble on the opening kickoff? That was amazing. Amani Hooker makes plays on the ball. He creates turnovers. It's just what he does. It's just in his nature. So I think Amani Hooker is going to benefit from the blitzes. He's going to benefit from the cornerbacks on the outside. And Amani Hooker is going to be the playmaker of the year for the Titans defense. As for the defensive breakout player, I'm going to talk more about this guy in a second, but I think it's going to be T'Vondre Sweat. I'm buying into the camp hype. I think that I'm going to be incredibly wrong. I've been joking with my buddies that it's going to be my worst take of all time, and people are going to talk about it 20 years from now that, hey, remember when he was wrong about T'Vondre Sweat? It's just one of those things that's going to live with me, and I accept that for what it is. But you know what would really make that pill easier to swallow? If Sweat really was absolutely freaking nuts. Okay. And based on the training camp reports, based on what I saw from him in that game against the New Orleans Saints, I think he has the ability to really be a breakout star for the Titans. And I mentioned this before the first preseason game after T'Vondre Sweat gave that interview where he said, nah, man, I'm T Sweat. He has a larger than life personality that I think will make him a star. If you guys saw the video of T'Vondre Sweat singing with Jelly Roll when he's walking and all the offensive linemen are going, ooh, 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 as he takes his steps, I mean, he just has a magnetic personality that make people want to watch him, that make people want to see him. And I think that if he makes plays, his personality is going to put him in superstardom territory pretty early in his career. So I think Sweat is going to break out this year as a rookie and really put his name on the map. The defensive X factor, though, for me, that's Harold Landry. All right, so the Titans have good interior rush with Simmons and Sweat. The Titans have good cornerback play with Snead and Cheeto and Roger. The Titans have pretty good safety group. It's pretty good with Amani Hooker and Quandre Diggs. The one thing that I think will have a big impact on the Titans is, are they able to get significant pass rush from the edge? We know about the interior. We know about the secondary. The big question mark for me is the pass rush on the edge. Harold Landry is a very good rusher. He's not great. He's not Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt. Like, you know, he's not on that level. Okay. So I think that Harold Landry is a very good player, as I just said. But if he's not very good all year long, the Titans are going to be in trouble because they don't have anything else on the edge. All right. They don't. They simply don't. So if Harold Landry isn't a major, major X factor off the edge, I think the Titans pass rush is not going to be good enough. And that brings me to my disappointment on defense. And it's Arden Key. So early in the offseason, Brian Callahan called Arden Key a rotational pass rusher, which I think is what he is. And then in a previous press conference, in a recent press conference, Brian Callahan said that Arden Key has proved that he could be a 3-down linebacker, or he deserves that role. Well, he's not. Arden Key is not a 3-down linebacker. He's a rotational pass rusher, a third pass rusher at best. And the fact that the Titans are having to use him as a starting outside linebacker against the run and on early downs, and that he's not a rotational player, so he's got to play more snaps, I just think that's a recipe for disaster. I think some people disagree with me now, but this time next year, or probably earlier, before the draft next year, people are going to be talking about how edge is the number one need for the Titans. It'll be Harold Landry's last year on his contract with guaranteed money. And everyone will finally realize that Arden Key is nowhere near a starting level player. I think Arden Key won't be on the Titans next year, if I'm honest. It was always a 2-year deal, in my opinion, the way it was structured when he was signed by John Robinson, or signed by Rand Carthon. So I think that Arden Key, not because I think it's other people's fault, not necessarily Arden Key's, but Arden Key is not a starting level edge rusher. And I think people are going to be disappointed with this performance at the end of the year because the expectations are simply too high. But with that being said, let's get into some NFL predictions. Who will be NFL MVP? Who will win the Super Bowl? Who will win win playoff spots and wild cards? I'm going to have a little bit of fun with some NFL talk right now. Before I do, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Look, Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. It's football season now. You want to go to some games. You got to check out this new feature on Game Time called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They also have a view from your seat. Like, you can literally see what you're going to be looking at when you sit down on the app. They have all-in pricing. All you got to do is turn on the feature. Just toggle on the feature in your settings, and you'll actually see all-in prices for your tickets, so you're not surprised by fees at checkout. And they have the Game Time guarantee. so you know you'll be paying the lowest price. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Also, want to let you guys know that today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you should? Or was that lost in childhood? Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back to school era can come at any age. I personally have really been focused on defensive coverages and trying to learn more about the complexity of NFL defensive coverages here in the past few weeks. So I know that, that's something that you got to focus on if you want to get it right. And again, therapy can help you do that. And I've had a great experience with BetterHelp personally. If you're thinking of starting therapy, you got to give BetterHelp a try. Make sure that you rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon and you'll get 10% off your first month today. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Titans fans, I'm hitting the water heavy, man. Trying to make it through. I appreciate all you guys. Anyway, we got to talk some NFL predictions. Curious to hear what you guys have to say about the Titans on offense, the Titans on defense with the categories that I presented. Again, now I want to talk a little bit of general NFL. It's always fun to put those predictions on wax with you guys before the season actually kicks off. As a reminder, tomorrow I'm going to be looking at the Titans ceiling as a team, their floor as a team, how they get to their ceiling, how they would get to the floor, where I think they ultimately land and why. So make sure that you tune in for that. Also, going to remind you guys again that the new Locked On NFL is here. They split it into two shows. I am hosting the AM show, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, which I really, really enjoy. And then Tony Wiggins in the afternoon, the barber, bringing you into the barbershop for some NFL talk. You're going to get local experts giving insights. I'm going to be giving some hot opinions and takes. Going to get breakdowns of everything you need to know in the NFL world, all in under 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL. It's twice a day. Make me, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, and the barber, Tony Wiggins, your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube. I would really appreciate your guys' support on that if you guys would check it out. But with that being said, going to roll through some of these NFL predictions. Let me know what your guys' are down below. For NFL MVP, I think it's going to be Jordan Love. Jordan Love of the Packers. I think a big part of awards is guys that are well-liked by the media, and people cannot wait to crown Jordan Love. They can't. So even if the Packers have a decent season at all, people are going to rush to crown Jordan Love. They're already slobbering over it. They can't wait. So I think it's one of those things where a lot of the time, people confirm their own biases, and people who like Jordan Love and love Jordan Love are going to be like, oh, his season was great. He was the MVP. I was right. So I think Jordan Love wins MVP this year. Offensive Player of the Year, Garrett Wilson from the New York Jets. I think Garrett Wilson is a top 5 talent at wide receiver in the NFL. He's had just garbage quarterback play for most of his career. Zach Wilson, Mike White. Didn't they have Flacco for a minute a couple of years ago? I mean, they've had a bunch of random dudes playing quarterback. I think Aaron Rodgers does stay healthy. I think it's a watered-down version of the Aaron Rodgers that we know, but even a watered-down version of Aaron Rodgers, I think, could give Garrett Wilson a big year. I'm thinking 1,700 receiving yards and like 15 touchdowns. I think Garrett Wilson goes absolutely insane this year. Defensive Player of the Year, Max Crosby. I loved Max Crosby coming out of college. I really loved Max Crosby. I wanted the Titans to take him so bad. But I think it's his year. And now he has Christian Wilkins at defensive tackle. that the Raiders signed from the Dolphins, and I think that'll help him get even better matchups. So I think Max Crosby is the defensive player of the year. Offensive rookie of the year, I think it's going to be Caleb Williams. You guys know, like I said with Jordan Love, people cannot wait to crown these young quarterbacks. And I think Caleb Williams is going to make wow plays because of his all-schedule playmaking and getting out of the pocket and doing different stuff, which Titans cannot allow. We'll talk about that when we get into the game plan Friday stuff. But I think Caleb Williams does win Rookie of the Year. I think the Bears go to the playoffs, and Caleb Williams wins that award justifiably. So Defensive Rookie of the Year, though, again, I'm going with T'Vondre Sweat. I think Sweat will make splash plays. He's a big, larger-than-life human, a big, larger-than-life personality. I think as he starts making plays, he's going to start doing interviews on, Good Morning Football and all these different, national platforms. I think he's going to be a guy who is easy to root for because of the backlash that he got during the draft. A lot for me, you know what I mean? But I wasn't alone. Most national places didn't like that pick either. But I think because of that, he's going to be viewed as kind of a comeback story. He's going to be viewed as a rootable, that's not a word, but a rootable character. I think T'Vondre Sweat can win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He usually goes to guys on the defensive line too, like pass rushers and stuff like that, linebackers. So as for some team predictions, Super Bowl, I think it's Packers-Chiefs. I think the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, three-peat. And I think we start having the Mahomes-Brady becomes Jordan LeBron as the new go-to debate for sports shows. So Chiefs over Packers in the Super Bowl. I think in the AFC, Chiefs, Texans, Bengals, and Bills are the division winners. NFC, I think Eagles, Packers, Falcons, 49ers are the division winners. And then for the wild card, I have the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Colts making the playoffs in the AFC. And then I have the Lions, the Bears, and the Seahawks making the wild card spots in the NFC. So those are my predictions for the Titans on offense and defense. Those are my predictions for the NFL overall. Again, not Titans conversation necessarily, but really fun to get those opinions on wax and hear what you guys have to say before the season actually kicks off. Again, on tomorrow's show, going to look at the Titans ceiling as a team, the Titans floor as a team, how they would get to either of those points, and then where I think they ultimately land and why they ultimately land there, what from the ceiling actually works, what from the floor actually takes place. I'll dive into all of that. And again, please check out Locked On NFL. Please. If you support me and you support the show, support my adventure over on Locked On NFL, hosting that in the mornings. But with that being said, I'm going to go hit the hot tea and honey, ladies and gentlemen. But tighten up in the chat, thumbs up on the video. That's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and that was a fun one. And this was Locked On Titans.